Modern techno-billionaires claim that they are new science fiction writers who will lead us to a bright future, but the science fiction they appeal to was anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist. At the end of October 2021, Bill Gates, whose net assets are $138 billion, celebrated his 66th birthday in a bay off the coast of Turkey. During the festivities, he delivered guests from his yacht to the beach by private helicopter. According to local media reports, Jeff Bezos, whose net assets are $197 billion, who returned to his own yacht, the richest man on the planet, Elon Musk, was not among the guests. He was most likely in Texas at that time, where his company SpaceX was preparing to launch a rocket. Mark Zuckerberg's net assets of $119 billion also did not arrive, however, the day after Gates' party. He announced plans to create a virtual reality meta-universe that will allow users in the guise of avatars to attend parties on individual islands in the Aegean Sea, sail a yacht and even fly a rocket just like the rich. So what kind of future do virtues with $1 billion fortune want to bring us to? This is what today's video is about. Meta-universe is both the personification of an alarming turn in the history of capitalism and an attempt to distract attention from it. Techno-billionaires are building a new kind of capitalism mask who likes to gut his competitors. Ridiculed Zuckerberg's initiative. The term meta-universe was first used in a novel by Neal Stephenson that was written in 1992. But the idea itself is much older. Under the name of the holodeck, it appears in the sci-fi media franchise Star Trek, from which Bezos, having read stories about the creation of new worlds in childhood, the current billionaires have. There are enough funds to bring these stories to life today. We all found ourselves hostages of their sick fantasies. Through his company Amazon Studios, Bezos tried to film the culture cycle of the Scottish writer Ian Banks. Zuckerberg included a cycle of novels, a list of books that everyone should read. Banks was a socialist. In 2010, 3 years before his death, he gave an interview in which he called the heroes of the culture cycle armed with hyper-weapons happy communists who are disgusted with the market of democracy greed. To him, he also expressed bewilderment that some see in his book's praise. Did these people not notice the lack of private property and money in the novels of the cycle? He said perhaps all these references of billionaires to science fiction are idle chatter and flirting with the public. However, we are still talking about very smart people. Besides, everything indicates that they really read these books. Bill Gates stands apart here. I am not interested in flying to Mars, he said last winter. Gates read science fiction as a child but then lost interest in it. The billionaires of our world are rather hatching plans of a different order. If they were villains of science fiction films, they would have announced other planets. Almost all science fiction writers were against the supremacy of the super-rich elites over ordinary people, but as a rule in many of their novels they showed that they seized power and on the basis of high technology arranged a new slavery. Write in the comments if you think that the same thing is happening in our world now and we are going further. Returning to the meta-universe announced not so long ago by Mark Zuckerberg. It all sounded very cool and promising, but if you consider all this more closely, it immediately becomes clear that the company itself is not completely sure of what it has planned. Many even accused the creators of the idea that it distracts attention, that it is just trying to score points and show its importance against the background of scandals that constantly appear around the company itself and data leakage failures and aggressive advertising policy. All this gives reason to believe in the opinions of such experts. We will not gossip on this topic now, but look at the situation from a different angle and try to understand why this universe is not needed by major market players. And so what is this universe? Meta-universe, for you can call it a way to escape from reality, but it's hard to say that this is a good and even better way of such an escape. It's hard not to agree that a fully realized meta-universe will push people to spend their lives in worlds that will increasingly move away from the physical despite high ambitions and advances in technology. This is just a rebranding of virtual reality. You will still be in another non-existent place without getting up from the sofa or leaving the room of a person. There will not even be replaced by the same existing, only in the form of a program code avatar. This is not just a dystopia, but a one-way path. As the virtual world improves, we simply do not want to return back to the real world. These drugs, in fact, moreover, it is beneficial for those in power that people poor and so that their reality does not seem so happy to them. It is for these simple people that such ideas are created so that they escape the virtual world from their problems, which of course need to be solved. But unfortunately this escape virtual reality is becoming more and more possible due to the fact that various companies are actively working on virtual reproduction of the physical world and lure us into it. I promise sensations that did not exist before, and meanwhile, as we see in the real world, a real catastrophe of both an economic and social nature is unfolding, and since the creators of this idea declare in the meta-universe, you can do almost anything, gather with friends and family, work, study, play, shop, create, and also get completely new impressions. You can even become anyone there, but such a lifetime dream achievement will bring pleasure if it gets just by pressing a button, and of course the creators and ideological inspirers do not take into account a bunch of problems from technical difficulties and lack of computing power to questions about who will manage this world at all and whether the human psyche will cope with such a radical perestroika. Does not mean that we should unite against technology, they should develop. But does it not seem that such a leap is very sharp? Virtual reality will not flourish for games and even for educational purposes. However, ideally it should always go in parallel and not intersect with our world, much less replace it. And here one very interesting and important question arises that is very often bypassed: why are the powers that be in such a hurry? Because the optimal moment for the great redistribution during the great reboot has already come against the background of mass psychosis over quoted and insanely HYIP, and this metaverse becomes terms for you. But why right now, and why so much information on this topic immediately falls on us? Everything is very simple. The global confrontation of traditional states with the rapid emancipation of transnational rulers reaches a new level on the eve and almost unanimously by supercorporations. Microsoft announced the creation of a digital Metacon with a camp in spaces and virtual 3D reality. Both companies announced plans for the next 10 years to take more than 1 billion people into the matrix by replacing the interfaces for accessing the transfer of products from smartphones familiar to everyone to glasses for marketing memes. The presented image of the future may seem like a logical continuation of the development of the digital world, but analysts note the beginning of a great redistribution of this market. It is noteworthy that Facebook does not hide plans for world domination. Microsoft does not particularly hide it. Companies intend to raise their profits tenfold from $30 billion to almost $2 trillion in the future, and this is only due to replacing the fleet of interfaces of the audience of noticeably cheaper smartphones with an expensive Air VR interface filling all new platforms with content. According to analysts, the company will bring almost 3 times more. That is, in fact, it is also a way to enrich themselves. Now Microsoft is investing millions of dollars retraining hundreds of thousands of third-party digital specialists to work on filling the new wondrous virtual world. It is assumed that all social interaction of the audience will mainly go to the new network. Users will literally be able to live in virtual space visiting each other's universes, and 3 billion real money for 3D objects for their modification and addition. Social psychologists are wary of the future transformations. It is expected that the new world will lead to increased atomization of society and intergroup aggression. However, states will suffer the greatest losses according to experts. The winner of the redistribution of the virtual world's market will become, if not the global demiurge of the new world, then at least the bearer of someone's state functions over their users. In fact, will manage everyone bypassing states, and if there are still any, all processes and political consequences of the participation of meta-networks in social processes will be repeatedly strengthened, and companies will have all the levers to provide 3-dimensional repressions against both the avatars of their users and already quite real social life in order to better understand the issues of what is happening. One critical mind is not enough. It is still necessary to study and understand deep philosophical questions and questions of faith, and this spiritual war that is unfolding in the material world has a specific purpose as described in the prophecies of Orthodox saints and many other people who spoke about this confrontation. Search, dig and learn the truth, friends. If you liked the video, be sure to put your thumbs up and share it with your like-minded people, write comments, and of course subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't done it yet, so far,